You ever watch someone carry a whole house of cards, only for it to collapse the second they take a step back? That's the WNBA right now. And the person holding the entire league together? Caitlin Clark. Let's not sugarcoat it. The moment she was sidelined with groin injury, the lights didn't just dim, they nearly went out. Games that once trended nationally, drawing millions of eyeballs and igniting full-on fan wars online? Crickets. TV ratings that were soaring like a rocket just a month ago? Free fall. Matchups once billed as unmissable. If you're here for the real story and not the filtered version, subscribe. And if you're sticking around for the next meltdown, you better definitely subscribe. Now relegated to background noise on streaming apps and empty arena shots. It's a full-blown ratings collapse, and everyone knows why. Caitlin Clark was the show. She is the show. And the second she's not playing, people start changing the channel. The numbers don't lie. The WNBA had just set record after record for viewership in the first half of the season. Sold-out crowds, ESPN features, jersey sellouts, entire highlight reels dedicated to Clark versus the world. People were finally talking about the WNBA not as a niche product, but as a real national-level sport. Then came the injury. Then came the silence. Key matchups that once pulled in millions of viewers, down by more than 50%. Some games lost over 1 million sets of eyes. Entire storylines crumbled because the player at the center of them, Caitlin, was watching from the bench in warm-ups. This isn't just a dip. This is an emergency. And it raises a brutal question the league can't ignore anymore. Did the WNBA build its entire momentum on a single player? Because if one injury, is enough to take the wind out of league sails, then something is very, very wrong with the foundation. And fans are picking up on that. Fast. The frustration is boiling over, not just with the TV numbers or the lackluster matchups, but with how we got here in the first place. Let's rewind. Caitlin Clark entered the league with one of the most explosive rookie debuts in modern sports. The hype wasn't just basketball-driven. It was cultural. She was everywhere. National commercials, billboard, mic'd-up moments, and social media highlight loops that fed the algorithm like a Thanksgiving feast. And the WNBA? It went all in. They marketed Clark like she was the second coming. Every promo, every headline, every broadcast focused on her. And it worked, until it didn't. Because somewhere in that media blitz, someone forgot to build the rest of the house. There's no backup storyline. No secondary star ready to shoulder the narrative. No league-wide identity that holds up when Caitlin Clark is in street clothes. And that's not just an oversight. It's a crisis of vision. This league has talent. Aya Wilson, Breanna Stewart, Jewel Lloyd, Alyssa Thomas, Angel Reese. These are elite players, generational talents. But they haven't been given the same elevation, the same machine behind them. And now that the spotlight's temporarily dimmed on Clark, the entire stage feels empty. And let's not ignore the role of the networks here, because they bought into the Clark wave just as hard. ESPN, ABC, Amazon Prime. They all jumped on board when the viewership numbers exploded. But now, advertisers are watching those ratings plummet and starting to panic. Because here's what no one wanted to admit. While Clark was healthy and the cash was flowing, this league isn't ready to scale. Not sustainably. Not yet. There's no infrastructure to carry the hype once the superstar isn't on the court. The supporting cast? There but underpromoted. The storylines? Shallow. The drama? Manufactured and one note. And most dangerously, the officiating and player protection protocols? Inadequate. Let's talk about that last point for a second, because it's part of what led to this ratings disaster. Clark's groin injury didn't just happen in a vacuum. It came after weeks of nonstop contact, hard fouls, off-ball hits, and almost zero meaningful whistles from the refs. She's been hit, shoved, and targeted since Game 1. And the league? Slow to act. Slow to protect her. Slow to realize that losing her wasn't just a team issue. It was a business risk. You can't build your empire on one pillar, and then shrug when that pillar starts to crack. Clark needed protection, not from fans or pressure, but from a physical toll of being the most watched, most fouled, most targeted player in the league. She needed officials to set the tone early, to keep the game clean, to remind offenders that just because someone is popular doesn't mean they're fair game for body checks. But that didn't happen. So now she's out, and so are the viewers. And the WNBA front office? Radio silent. No press release. No shift in narrative. Just business as usual while the entire momentum they built over 4 months vanishes in a week. The optics are terrible. The planning is non-existent. And the fans? Federal up. People want to support the league. They've shown up. They've posted. They've bought the merch, the league pass, the courtside seats. But when that loyalty isn't returned, when the product dips the moment one player gets hurt, it feels like a slap in the face. Because it's not just about Clark. It's about the league not believing enough in its other stars to lift them up, give them the mic, and build stories that last. This was the WNBA's shot to prove it had depth, that it could build a product that survives injuries, team slumps, bad nights. But instead of building a deep bench of marketable talent, they funneled everything into Caitlin. And now that she's gone, we're all watching the consequences unfold. What's worse? The pressure this puts on her. When Clark returns, she won't just be coming back from injury. She'll be returning as the savior of the entire league's viewership, the ratings messiah, the only person who can bring it back. That's not just unrealistic. It's dangerous. Because what happens the next time she needs to sit? What if her injury worsens? What if the weight becomes too much? What if she starts to resent that no one else was empowered enough to carry the torch when she couldn't? Clark is 22. She's already carrying the pressure of a whole franchise, an entire broadcast schedule, and a lead trying to prove it belongs in the mainstream. She shouldn't have to carry the future of the sport, too. So, where does the WNBA go from here? First, it needs to change the narrative, fast. Start putting serious investment into the rest of the player pool. Let's see more documentaries, player features, off-court profiles, rivalries that aren't built around just one person. Highlight the Aya versus Brianna legacy battle. Give us the Candace Parker farewell tour. Explore the rookie impact of Reese, Brink, and Jackson on their own terms, not just in Clark's shadow. Second, protect your assets. If a player is drawing the league's largest audience, treat her like a franchise. Proper load management. Better officiating. Coaches held accountable for dangerous play. Third, and most importantly, build depth in your product. Don't make the WNBA a one-player show. It's unsustainable. It's risky. And worst of all, it devalues the rest of your talent. Because this moment, Clark's injury, the ratings collapse, the panic from networks, is a warning. A big, red, flashing sign that says, you had the attention. Now, prove you know what to do with it. Because the next generation is watching. And if the WNBA wants to keep growing, it can't just wait for Clark to come back. It has to show it can stand and thrive with or without her. And here's the kicker. This whole meltdown could have been prevented. Seriously, we didn't need to end up here, on the edge of a full-scale ratings cliff, praying Caitlin Clark's groin heals fast enough to stop the bleeding. The signs were right there all season. The imbalance, the dependency, the dangerous level of star isolation marketing. And yet, somehow, nobody at league headquarters said, hey, maybe this is a little risky. Let's not forget, this is not the first time the WNBA has had marketable stars. Diana Taurasi, Candace Parker, Maya Moore. These are names that carried the league through entire eras. But the key difference? Back then, there was a core ensemble, a more evenly distributed storyline. People tuned in not just for the stars, but for matchups. Now, it's all Caitlin all the time, or nothing. And here's where it gets real messy, because fans notice. Not just the casuals, not just a new wave. Hardcore, longtime WNBA supporters are now raising eyebrows and asking hard questions. Why hasn't the league promoted Aya Wilson with the same energy? Why does Sabrina Ionescu get 1/3 the media coverage despite being in New York? Why isn't Eric Ogunbo marketed like the walking bucket she is? These aren't petty comparisons. They're calls for balance. Because fans understand that the league is bigger than one player, and it's time the league understood it too. But let's go deeper. You know what happens when a league centers all attention on one player? Everyone else starts playing second fiddle, even when they shouldn't. Take Angel Reese. She's had an amazing rookie year, record-breaking rebounds, grit, growth, an entire city behind her. And yet, without Clark in the picture, it's like the cameras just lost interest. Or Camila Cardoso, coming into her own as a legit big. Or Nneka Agwamike, still a cornerstone vet, making huge plays in crunch time. These are athletes with compelling narratives, but they're getting none of the attention they deserve, because all the lights were left on Clark's stage and nobody bothered to set up a second act. So now we're here, post-injury. Viewership flatlining, advertisers nervously rereading contracts, networks scrambling to replace marquee matchups that no longer deliver, and worst of all, the energy shift. There's been a noticeable vibe change. The buzz that once surrounded every WNBA game has dulled. The excitement on social media feels forced. The fan conversations? Less about epic plays and more about when's Caitlin coming back. That's not growth. That's fragility. And that fragility speaks volumes about how the league structures its appeal. Because growth built on novelty isn't growth. It is sugar high. It spikes, then crashes. And unless there's something real underneath to sustain it, the crash takes everything down with it. So where's the solution? Well, it starts with storytelling. Real, long-form, compelling storytelling that goes beyond the Caitlin Clark narrative. Give us the backstory on Kahleah Copper's breakout leadership in Phoenix. Show us how Chelsea Gray is returning from injury and still a floor general masterclass. Dive into rookie journeys that aren't tied to viral beef or college fame. And please, for the love of basketball, elevate these rivalries. There are genuine, intense, high-level rivalries in this league. New York versus Vegas? That a whole saga waiting to be documented like a Netflix docuseries. But we barely hear about it unless it's a finals rematch. Meanwhile, Clark sneezes during warm-ups and it trends for 18 hours. That's not Caitlin's fault, by the way. She didn't ask to be the sole lifeline of an entire league's momentum, but she's the one who has to carry the weight. And the league? They haven't just let her, they've enabled it. And now, with her sitting out, she's absorbing the blame and the loss of momentum. Which brings us to another hard truth. The pressure on Caitlin Clark when she returns will be astronomical. Every possession will be under a microscope. Every missed shot, every turnover, every foul drawn will be analyzed like a stock ticker, because the unspoken message from the league is, we're depending on you to fix the ratings. That's not just unfair, it's unsustainable. Clark is 22, a rookie, still adjusting to the speed, the strength, and the politics of the pro game. She should be able to grow without being burdened by an entire league's expectations. And yet, here we are. Let's not forget, groin injuries linger. They don't go away with a week of rest and a few ice baths. If she returns too soon, she risks aggravating it, which could turn a 2-week absence into months. And then what? The WNBA's gamble, doubling down on one star, would fully implode. The only smart path forward? Diversify the spotlight. Immediately, urgently, without apology. Start flooding social media with highlights of other players. Get ESPN talking about Nneka's veteran legacy. Push Erik's deep threes into the timeline. Tell Aaliyah Boston's redemption arc post-struggles. Give the rookies their moments. Reese, Brink, Cardoso. Let them have their own stories, not just Clark's rivals. Because here's the good news. The talent is already there. The stories are already there. The league doesn't need to invent anything. It just needs to look around. And yet, the longer the WNBA waits to shift the narrative, the worse the damage gets. We're not just talking about ratings now. We're talking about long-term credibility. Because what happens the next time a big college star joins the league? Will she want to walk into the same pressure cooker Clark did? Will she feel like she'll be supported or used until her body breaks? This moment is a test, not of Caitlin Clark, but of the league itself. Can the WNBA evolve past its own hype cycle? Can it build a foundation strong enough to handle a star injury without losing the plot entirely? Can it learn to protect, not just promote? Because here's the scariest part of all. If they don't figure this out soon, Clark's return won't save the league. It'll just restart the countdown. Tick, tick, tick. Until the next injury, the next absence, the next reminder that you can't build a house on a single beam, even if it shines like gold. The league needs balance. The players deserve respect. And the fans? They're ready for more than one face on the poster. The question is the WNBA? Here's what nobody in the WNBA office seems willing to admit out loud. They weren't prepared for this level of attention. They begged for it. Sure. They campaigned for it. They celebrated every viral Caitlin Clark highlight, like it was a Super Bowl ad. But once it actually hit, once millions of casual sports fans, curious media execs, and global brands started watching, the league panicked. Why? Because when all those new eyeballs came for Caitlin, they didn't find a well-oiled modern sports product. They found something still scrambling to catch up. Inconsistent marketing, poor storytelling, limited access, refs who seem allergic to protecting players, TV broadcasts with camera angles from 2007, production value that screams, we weren't ready for prime time. And the worst part? The league is now reaping the consequences of putting all that attention on one person and none on the infrastructure around her. Because make no mistake, this ratings crash isn't just about Clark being out. It's about fans realizing that when she's not on the court, there's no clear reason to stick around. And that is not the fault of the athletes. It's a failure of presentation. Take a look at any other major league. When LeBron sits, the NBA doesn't fall apart. When Patrick Mahomes misses a game, the NFL doesn't lose its mind. Why? Because those leagues have layers. They build up dozens of compelling stars, teams, and rivalries. They've got narratives stacked like dominoes. If one falls, another steps up. But the WNBA? Right now, it's all domino, no line. When Clark goes down, the league isn't just missing a player. It's missing its entire front-facing product. And fans feel it, even the new ones. Because here's the irony. Caitlin Clark didn't need to be marketed this hard to draw attention. Her game, her numbers, her intensity, it speaks for itself. The overexposure wasn't for her. It was the league's shortcut, their fast-track to relevance. Instead of doing the hard work of building storylines around Aya Wilson's dynasty run or hyping up the gritty redemption arc of the Seattle Storm, they leaned on one golden ticket, one narrative, one player, and now that ticket's temporarily torn, and the whole ride is grinding to a halt. You know it's bad when even broadcast partners start quietly pulling back. Networks are already shuffling game schedules, prioritizing matchups with guaranteed Clark minutes, and subtly shifting promotional efforts elsewhere. Sponsors are getting cautious. The hot property that was WNBA primetime is now getting side-eyed as a gamble. Why invest heavily in a product that can fall apart overnight? That's how fast the industry moves. Attention spans are short, and if you can't show stability, if your numbers can't hold up for even 2 weeks without one person, then your credibility is fragile at best. And that's the real concern here, not just a dip in viewership, but the message it sends. Because potential fans are watching. And if their first taste of the league was all Caitlin all the time, and now she's gone, and they're being asked to care about a matchup they've never heard of, they won't stick around. Not unless you give them a reason. That's on the WNBA to fix. Now, urgently, let's talk solutions. First, invest in broadcast quality. Period. We can't keep watching star players in pixelated 720p with no replays. We need more cameras, better audio, stronger commentary teams that can tell stories and explain why matchups matter. Second, hire a storytelling department. Yes, a real one. A team that works like a TV writer's room. Build arcs, track feuds, create content that puts players' personalities front and center. Not just Instagram posts and mic'd up clips, but documentaries, YouTube series, features that go beyond box scores. Fans want to connect emotionally. They want to root for players they know. The league has incredible stories. It just hasn't done the work to tell them. Third, protect your stars. We said it before, but it bears repeating. Clark didn't just get hurt randomly. She was battered every single game with barely a whistle. If you can't keep your biggest draw safe from reckless contact, what are you even doing? Make officiating consistent. Make it loud and clear. Physical doesn't mean dirty. If you want to market players like superstars, then treat them like it. Protect the product. Fourth, build rivalries that don't revolve around Caitlyn. Angel Reese versus Aaliyah Boston? That's a college rematch people would eat up. Aces versus Liberty? That's a finals rematch begging for more drama. Promote those matchups with the same energy you'd give a Clark versus Reese game. Build anticipation. Fifth, stop apologizing for wanting to entertain. Lean into it. Flash. Style. Swagger. Basketball is theater. Give us the drama. Let the players talk a little trash. Let them be loud. Let them have fun. That's what keeps people watching even when the biggest names aren't playing. Because here's the truth no one can deny. The WNBA has the talent. It has the personalities. It has the potential. But unless it builds a sustainable ecosystem around those things, it'll always be one injury away from collapse. And Caitlin Clark deserves better than to be the crutch holding it all together. She's already carried a college program to historic ratings. She's already saved the Indiana Fever from irrelevance. Now she's being asked to keep an entire professional league alive with her ankles taped and a groin injury nagging her. She's not a player anymore. She's a business strategy. And that's not just unfair. It's dangerous. The WNBA's job now is simple but difficult. Prove it can thrive without Clark on the court. Because if it can't, the problem was never about her injury. It was about the league's vision. And right now, that vision looks mighty blurry.